Hello, everyone. Welcome to... What are you laughing for, Morgan?
We'll never get used to it.
What, the intro?
Yeah, the intro.
Great, isn't it? Welcome to this episode of Beyond the South Stand, off script with me, Jez Davies, and my illustrious co-host, Morgan Hewitt. Hi, Morgan. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. I've noted on this we've all got sort of Welsh relating names. Obviously, myself, Davies, one of the most popular surnames in Wales. You being called Morgan, and our guest today, Wrexham fan Wayne Jones. How are you, Wayne?
I'm very good, gents. Good evening.
Thanks for coming on. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on board. Perhaps if you'd just like to introduce yourself, what you do for a living, we know what club you support, and how long you've supported Wrexham for.
Yeah, so I am a tenant at the Turf Hotel right next door to the Wrexham football stadium, the racecourse, or the Stoke Kairas as it's now known. Yeah. Been there for what feels about 300 years, but it's only actually been 17. Went travelling when I was younger, got to about 24, came home after 3 years of travelling around the globe and needed to put some roots down, borrowed every penny I could off my mum and dad, and here I am 17 years later, still in the turf.
Fantastic. And I mean, a lot of our viewers, I guess, will have watched the documentary and obviously your involvement within that, so know the story about Wrexham and what's happened over the last few years. But perhaps if you'd just like to start at the point of relegation from the Football League, which was what, turn of the century.
So
some of the feelings around that.
Oh, I mean, horrific. It was Hereford United away. I remember it like it was yesterday, sadly. Men, women and children crying on the terraces, decades and decades of history of, being a Football League club. First time ever, I think I'm right in saying that we ever went out of the Football League. 87, I think, consecutive years in the EFL. And I think it was an average position of around 56th, which is, probably, I think something like 10th in League One. 10th in League Two. So, yeah, a good, proud history of playing in the EFL. And when we went out of it, it was a really dark era, dark cloud hanging over the club. We had some, shall we use the word shady? We had some shady owners at the time. And, just a really, really horrible time to think. When you think back compared to where we are now, night and day.
Yeah, I mean, just to interject, before Jez continues with any other questions, the whole purpose of these beyond the South Stand off scripts are to talk to fans of clubs who have been promoted through the Football League, either got into or won a cup, or have got into the European Championships. So I think it's from my heart, like, it's a real privilege to have you here chatting to us, because Norwich haven't done anything for quite some time. So the Wrexham. So I was doing my research and I didn't realise this, but Wrexham are the third oldest pro football team in the world, if that's true.
That's correct. Yeah, I believe, and I hope I'm right. I believe it goes Notts County, Stoke City, I'm going to say, and then I think it's us. Although I believe there is a semi-professional team in Sheffield that claims to be the oldest. But yeah, I think Wrexham are third oldest professional football team in the world. Yeah, and we currently play at the oldest international football stadium still in use today.
That's crazy. Because viewers of or listeners of our podcast, I've mentioned it a few times, but like my half my family are from Wales, so they're from Merthyr Tydfil originally, and that kind of South Wales. Hence why I'm called Morgan. I mean, my whole name is so Morgan Williams from the valley.
But it's a very good Merthyr Tydfil accent.
But it's it's crazy to think that Wrexham are one of the thirdest oldest pro football teams in the world, and yet we're only now just hearing about them. I think, is that fair to say?
I would say so. I mean, obviously, the they're very well known in the lower league, around the League Two. I still call it Division Two. That's how old I am. Around League Two. When I first started watching Wrexham, they were 32 seasons ago, I think, or something. I think it was 11. And we just missed out on the playoffs for the Championship back then with some brilliant players, Darren Ferguson, Jeff Whitley, some fantastic players. And they were a force to be reckoned with back in them days. But obviously, again, we had several shady owners, and I don't know if you guys remember, but I think it was Leicester City who went into administration, and the EFL come down strong on the next team. They said the next team that was to get caught financially, we were going to get hammered, and that just happened to be Wrexham. And then we fell out of the league, and we've just spent 15, 16 seasons desperately trying to get back. So I can understand why we've almost been forgotten about to a certain extent. I mean, obviously, we would be well known amongst our rivals, the Tramiers, the Chesters and the Shrewsburys of this world, and Port Vales of like, but in the Northwest. But I can understand why people would sort of go, who are Wrexham kind of thing. But hopefully we're trying to change that, and we're slowly changing that, yeah.
Yeah, I think you, and Morgan's going to kill me for saying this, but you've kind of had a very similar path to Luton Town in the way that they were a Championship club for a number of years. I know you're going to laugh at that, but they went down.
Explain why. Because
my second team, if you like, went. I went to university there and never left, but it's weird because you sort of see that sort of metaphoric rise from where they were there, and they're in the conference for 5 years, and then they've made it all the way to the Premier League. And although it's not the consecutive promotions that we've seen with Wrexham, it's it was over probably about 8 or 9 seasons, and you can see it can. I suppose the point I'm getting at is it can be done. So I think the clubs that are in the conference now, can take heart with that.
Yeah, do you know what, Jez? I certainly take a lot of heart from it. Just touching on Luton, we lost. So we finished second in, I forget the season. It was the Jamie Vardy Fleetwood season when Luton Town finished 24 points behind Wrexham. Wrexham finished on 98 points that season. Dean Saunders was our manager. We played Luton, who, like I said, we finished 24. I think it was 24 points in front of. They come to the racecourse and absolutely spanked us 3-0 in the first leg of the playoffs. You probably remember it.
Yeah. And
I went to Kenilworth Road and we went 1-0 up after half an hour. And I really thought we'd turn it round. And Luton were fantastic on the night, to be fair. And I've watched them ever since. And obviously they're having a little bit of a tough time of it now. But yeah, I certainly take heart from their rise, and fair play to them, I get asked all the time, can Wrexham really get to the top? And, Rob and Ryan, they always say that when they were first interviewed, when they mentioned the Premier League, that everybody laughed. Well, I think people are slowly starting to think, actually, this may happen. This could happen. And we take heart from the Luton Towns. We take heart from the Brentfords, the Bournemouths. These teams are teams that Wrexham were playing regularly when I first started watching them. And now I'm not for 1 second suggesting we're, on par with some of these clubs. But if they can do it with the backing that Wrexham have got, why can't we do it? And Rob,
I want to interject you, Wayne. I watched a video 10 months ago of you being on the Chris Moyles show. And you were saying the same sort of thing, and you were like, oh, well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with this League One season. We're not favourites to get up there. We've got rivals that are, Birmingham City. I mean, Birmingham City, whatever. But look where you are now. I mean, what do you say to that?
Yeah, listen, I always try to play my cards a little bit lower. I like to think, I'm an optimist by heart. I'm always a half glass full kind of guy. Always believe in sort of giving them the benefit of the doubt when they have off days and things like that. But I'll be honest. I when we got promoted from League Two, which I was talking to somebody this morning, and I said League Two because we put all our emotions into the National League, and I genuinely think now that if we were to get promoted to the Premier League, as huge as it would be, I don't think you would have the relief and the euphoria that we had around that National League campaign, because we were so desperate to get out of it. And as you guys were fully aware, the pyramid is so difficult down there that if you're not first, you could be like we were with Luton, you could be almost nowhere. So we flew through the National League, 111 points. Well, we didn't fly through it. Notts County run us very, very close. It was a fantastic season, probably one of the best I'll ever witness. But League Two to me is almost a blur, because before I knew it, I think the reason behind it is because it took probably 3 or 4 months to get a head round the National League campaign the previous year, that before we knew it was Christmas and we were 5 points clear. And so League Two is a huge blur to me, which sounds daft to say because it's a 9-10 month season. And then I watched as we got promoted from League Two, I watched the Barnsley against Bolton game in the playoff final in League One, the League One we were about to join. And it was a fantastic game. And as it turns out, neither of them got promoted. And I remember speaking to Rob McElhenney and saying, shit, can we just stay in League Two? Because I was panicking. I was real. And he was like, chill out, don't worry. We're going to spend. We're going to be fine. Reassured me a bit. I calmed down a bit, and obviously the rest is history. And we stormed through it. And I had a very similar panic attack on Thursday when the fixtures come out for the Championship. So we'll just, what do I know? I keep getting it wrong. So let's just say we're going to go with it and see where we go.
I think it's interesting because you mentioned the National League there and how difficult it is to get out. And Barnet did really well this year and did. And you look at York City, they weren't far behind. I think they finished on, if it wasn't high 90s, so if it wasn't 100, it was high 90s. And they lost in their first playoff game against the team that won it, Oldham.
I watched that game, yeah.
It's like, you've dedicated the whole season to finish second, and you've had the rug from pulled under your feet because literally that they're going to have to start again next season, and it must be so difficult to motivate yourself knowing that A, there's only one promotion place, and B, you've got a sort of this really difficult sort of playoff system where actually it probably benefits the teams that have to play the first games because you have to wait 3 or 4 weeks before you play this. Do you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, you touched on having to G yourself up for the following season. What a lot of people maybe don't realise is that it's almost shit or bust in the National League. A lot of people, a lot of owners will put all their finances into one season, to give it a really good crack, to try and get that funding from the, as an EFL League Two team. Yeah, I've seen it happen so many times, and then the following season, I hope it doesn't happen to York. I know Barnet the year before were close and didn't do it, but have done it this year. But I mean, they put so much money into it and effort into it. It's a real slog. I mean, I remember when Wrexham went first out to the National League, and we beat Stevenage 5-0 at home on the first game of the season. Everybody come back in the turf afterwards and was like, "This is easy. It's going to be fine." Yeah. I remember the next game we lost 2-0 away to Rushden and Diamonds, and that really hit home that we were like, okay, this is going to be. And then, like I say, 15 seasons later, we're just so relieved to get out of it because it's such a. I actually think it's about time now that the rules change. I said the same thing when we were in the National League. I actually think that it should be 2 up and 1 playoff. The problem with that is.
Sorry, carry on.
No, I was just saying the problem with that is, you need the League Two teams to have a vote, and I think the most ever in favour of 2 up and 1 was 7. You need a majority vote. It's never going to happen, sadly, but it's a tough league. No,
it's interesting because you mentioned Rushden and Diamonds there, and a good friend of mine, Rob Sharp, who, funny enough, knows Ben Tozer, who we mentioned earlier. It was his stag weekend we went on. He was a Rushden and Diamonds fan. And that's the other side of the coin, isn't it? Where you see a club that have put, as you said, all their eggs in one basket, and then 3 or 4 years later they can't sustain it because Rushden's, surrounded by Northampton Town, Milton Keynes Dons that came on board, Luton Town. I'm trying to think of other clubs around that region, and just couldn't ever gain the support they needed to have that club as a sustained football league club. So that's the other side of the coin, isn't it? Where they've gone and. Yeah, blowing it. But then you mentioned Stevenage as well. I mean, it's a club that's literally about 2 miles that way from where I live. I live very close to Stevenage, and they've actually bucked the trend of a club that's, in all essence, I don't think Stevenage fans would mind me saying it's a non-league side, but they're a sustained League One side now because of how they run that football club. It's brilliant.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, I mean, my wife's got a very, very, very small family, but one of her aunties lives, again, a stone's throw away from Stevenage. And her late uncle was a big Stevenage fan. I had several conversations with him about Stevenage, and he said something similar, that they've always punched above their weight. I forget their manager, a really good manager, didn't they? For about
Graham Wesley, I think.
Graham Wesley did a great job there, didn't he? Credit to him. But yeah, it really is a gamble at that level, going back to National League. Bury went. Rushden and Diamonds went. I mean, Macclesfield, I think they were National League possibly at the time. They went. And then you go slightly up the pyramid again. I mean, look at Sheffield Wednesday. They're in the mire. So it's a real fine line, isn't it, between, which, not to make it all about Wrexham, but which makes me laugh when you go online and you see these idiots that say, what happens when these Hollywood guys roll out of town? They're going to go bust and all this. These guys are not here to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. They're not here to make a couple of million quid. They got their own money. They genuinely love it. They're, fingers crossed, they're here for the long haul. I don't know exactly, but yeah, it's sad to see clubs like Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, Bury Football Club. How is that allowed to happen? That is just absurd. So, real tough, real fine balance, isn't it, chaps?
No, definitely.
As you sort of touched on there, I mean, like I said, the whole premise of this podcast is kind of go off script. Usually we ask like questions to our guests, and we preempt it by sending them to them. But something you said there, so obviously you're well versed in the notion of the whole American ownership of a football club. Norwich, we've just been taken over by Mark Atanasio, who owns a baseball club in the States called Milwaukee Brewers, who have done pretty well in a, I suppose, quite a frugal way. Would that be fair to say, Jez?
Yeah.
So, like in this instance, what do you think American kind of input and ownership of like football clubs through the leagues is bringing to the UK?
I mean, listen, I don't want to speak for other clubs. It's been an absolute whirlwind for ours. I mean, Ryan, I'll just point out Canadian because he'll kill me if I call him American. But yeah, I mean, listen, I can't off the top of my head think of too many bad American owners. I know Chester once had an American owner who sort of run them ragged. I don't know much about your guy that's come in. I know the guy at, I think it was in Wrexham's league last year. The guy at Wycombe's an American chap who by all accounts, is very well thought of. Obviously, you've got Tom Brady, who's involved in Birmingham City and an American-backed by Tom Wagner, who had the pleasure of meeting, who's a lovely, down-to-earth guy. He's got a silly amount of money, and he seems to be really generating the area of Birmingham and really prospering the city of Birmingham, which is great to see. So I wouldn't be in an expert position to comment on all owners. I would imagine there probably are a few iffy ones out there, whether they be American or not. That's always the case, sadly. But no, I wish Norwich well. I've got a lot of time for Norwich. I sort of weird thing about Norwich growing up when I was watching Match of the Day, I was always mesmerised by the fact that every single time I watched them on Match of the Day, it was always sold out. And they always used to have I weirdly remember them having like a guy that used to sit there in like an orange steward's jacket. I used to see him on Match of the Day every week. And Norwich, if you remember it, stuck in my mind for years. And then I remember I sort of fell in love with Darren Huckabee. I just remember Darren Huckabee being an absolute legend. So yeah, so no, I mean, good luck to you.
Thank you.
There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with frugal. You know, I think if you're touching on the baseball side, is frugal. Then, you know, again about Wrexham, you know, people think because some of the media reports that I read are ridiculous. I just laugh. You know, it's ridiculous. We're going to spend this amount of money on Tom Kearney, and we're going to spend this amount of money on Vardy. 99.9% of it is a load of nonsense. We're just idiots trying to get clicks on social media for attention. What I would say is we've got a very, very good CEO in Mike Williamson, who the Rob and Ryan have appointed, and Sean Harvey, whether you love him or hate him, I know he's got his doubters in the Football League. Sean Harvey's been an absolute breath of fresh air for Wrexham Football Club, and he's kept everything on an even keel. When you could be maybe a little bit worried that it could go a little bit too Americanized, can I say, that he's not. He's just going to keep everything in order. If Rob and Ryan don't get involved with decisions, they'll leave it down to Sean, they'll leave it down to Mike, previously Fleur Robinson, sorry. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't listen, we spent a lot of money in the National League. I don't think there's any denying that. I think we were more than competitive in League Two, but Stockport spent a lot of money. I know for a fact we weren't in the top 2 or 3 highest spenders in League One. I mean, Peterborough United spends more money than Wrexham. Their owners admitted that, and look where they finished. So there's nothing wrong with frugal whatsoever. If you can do it on a shoestring, that's the best way to do it. But sadly, football needs money. But I wish you well with your owner. Are you confident with him?
Rolls
early days. I think it's you know, we tried. You don't want to talk about Norwich too much, but well, it is a Norwich podcast, isn't it, Morgan? So I suppose we could. Yeah, so we had a manager last season, Forup, who was Danish chap, brought in from a club in Denmark. And it looked like it was going to work at the start. Like we were playing some quite attractive football and pretty much demolishing teams at home. But it was never consistent enough. We had a lot of injuries, and it never really worked out for us last season. And I think everyone saw it as a transition season, and it just never worked. So we've gone for a tried and tested manager this year, Liam Manning, who was manager at Bristol City last season.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And got a team. Bristol perhaps weren't again one of the biggest spenders, but actually got them over. I wouldn't like to annoy Bristol City fans, but they overachieved last season with him. So we're hoping he's going to perhaps do the same a little bit with Norwich. And some of the early signs are quite good. We've signed Harry Darling from Swansea, who's quite really thought of. So yeah, sort of long answer short. Yeah, it's long. You know, it's quite a little bit early to decide really, but I think we're very optimistic. As well as them being sorry, Morgan, carry on.
I think Jez. I mean, I had this conversation with we make videos outside of this, so I had this conversation with our videographer today, Ben Glacier, and I think it's the first time I really ever know Norwich to go, well, we need to get a coach who knows this league, and we also need to bring in his support team. We also need to address our goalkeeping situation. We also need to address our defending situation. And we've gone out and we bought those players. Whereas in the past, I think we struggled with investment, and so whereby a club might ask for, I don't know, 4.5 for a player, and we'd be like, oh, can we get them for like 4 million? And they'd be like, nah. And then we'd be like, okay, cool. And then we just move on to someone who's like second or third choice, end up paying that in the first place, and then them not being as good. This is the first time I've known Norwich to be like, right, this is what we need to do, and do this, and this. And no, I don't know if that comes from having the backing. I mean, Wayne, like yourself with Wrexham, no secret that you've got through two tough leagues with a bit of financial backing. I mean, describe your journey, because I don't want to talk about Norwich anymore. Like, describe your journey over the past few seasons, please.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's no secret we've had a few quid to spend. Nothing compared to some of the reports you'll read. I'll be honest. To my knowledge, anyway. I mean, I don't know everything. I just run a pub, but I know a few of the people next door, and I don't think the money that some people suggest we've spent. Obviously, we've spent money. We certainly spent well in the National League, but I think. Do you know what? I mean, getting Paul Mullin was a huge moment for Wrexham. But the biggest signing for me, and I think everybody will agree, it's easy to say now because back-to-back promotions. Just get that in, by the way. Do you know what? I think our biggest signing was the manager. I think it was such a shrewd move. Just going out and getting Phil, who at the time, I think, I did maybe just a little bit of a crossroads in his career. He'd be let go by Sunderland and whatnot. But people tend to forget with Phil Parkinson, he got Bolton Wanderers promoted from League One. And I think they were under a transfer embargo or something like that. They had no money. He's just a brilliant. Do you know what he is? He's a brilliant man. He's the nicest guy you'll ever meet, which makes me laugh because when you hear him swearing on the documentary and then you speak to him in real life, you have to tell him to speak up because he's very softly spoken. I think the effing and jeffing is quite clearly to get a reaction out of the players, and 9 times out of 10 it works. Nicest man in the world. So he was our biggest signing for me. And then going out and getting a proven goal scorer in Paul Mullin. And credit to him. So Ollie Palmer was a big moment for Wrexham as well, because we were about 12th or 13th, if I remember right, in the National League. And we needed somebody for Mullin to play off. And Palmer came in and completely transformed us. And I know that Mullin obviously has now gone to Wigan. And what will happen with Palmer, I'm not sure. The big transfer talk is that he'll get shipped out this summer. And if that happens, then you know what? There'll always be heroes in these parts, because they came in when the chips were down, when it was really a slog in the National League. and they got us over the line, and then obviously slowly but surely Phil and the coaching team managed to add a little bit of quality in League Two. So, we signed Arthur on loan, who was just a phenomenal signing. I mean, he's just going to be. We had Ben Foster, obviously, and I feel a little bit sorry for Chomp, because Chomp was responsible for a majority of points in that National League team, and then Ben come in and pulled the save off against Notts County. And as brilliant as that was, people tend to forget about Chomp. But yeah, so we signed Arthur, who, in my opinion, the goalkeeper. He's 22, a lot to learn. Needs to come off his line a bit more, and he certainly needs to be a bit more vocal. But he's a baby in goalkeeping terms. He for me. I might eat these words in a year or two, but he, for me, will play at the very top. I genuinely believe he will be a top 6 Premier League goalkeeper. He's got everything. He's absolutely class. We got him on a free from Arsenal, which was an absolute bargain. I mean, it's a steal. We've stole him, basically. So we just added bits of quality to it, and we adjusted to League Two much, much better than I thought we would. Credit to Stockport. They were better than us. They tipped us to the title. We weren't bothered. We were up. That was all that mattered. Yes, we spent a few quid. Clearly, we spent a few quid. And then we suddenly found ourselves in what seemed like overnight in League One. And I think that's when majority of Wrexham fans that I speak to on a daily or weekly basis were saying at the time that we would have quite happily settled for just not stagnate, but let's just acclimatise. Let's just find our feet. And we still don't have a training facility. We're still renting off the FAW, which is in Wrexham, multi-million-pound facility. So it's brilliant, but we're renting it. So at the moment, it's papering over the cracks a bit on the training facility side. I don't know many Championship teams that don't have their own training facility. And then on top of that, again, if you've seen the documentary to our viewers, we've now taken down the temporary stand, and we're about to build a all singing, all dancing, beautiful cop stand. So it's all going on off the pitch, but I think a lot of Wrexham supporters, including myself, would have taken a top half finish in League One and would have just let everything else around us catch up. And that's all. But that's all well said and done. When you find yourself 3 points clear with a game to go, then you're not turning that down. In answer to your question about this season, I'll be honest, I don't know if I can swear on this podcast, but I'm absolutely shitting myself. We're really, really, really in with the big boys. I was in Greece last week with my wife, and I was pacing around the hotel waiting for the fixtures to come out. She told me to sit down 5 times, and then I sat down and got myself a pint of Mythos, and the fixtures come out, and then I had to quickly get myself another pint of Mythos because I thought, oh God, this is worrying. But I thought that last year. So
this is what you do, though. This is what you do. I've seen that video on the Chris Moyes show. You'll be up there. You know what I said to Jez, because we interviewed a Birmingham City fan a few weeks ago as part of this whole Beyond the South stand thing.
And by the way, sorry to interrupt, Morgan, who is also on that stag weekend with
How big was the stag weekend? Well, I wasn't there.
Crazy, innit? Crazy.
But
anyway,
basically,
carry on.
I said to him on that is it Luke Burns? Yeah, shout out to Luke Burns if you're watching this. I said to him, I fear Wrexham and Birmingham coming up. Believe it or not, you've got momentum, and we know because we've been in League One. Norwich know because we've been in League One. You get a good manager, and you've got players like Houlihan and Holt who are dragging that team through. Russ Martin, who are dragging that team up. You've got momentum, and we faltered quite considerably last season. Obviously, we've got Manning now, and we've been very shrewd with who we're buying, and I'm sure the players that we bought last season will come to a head and do well for us. But I said on that podcast to Luke, I was like, I'm actually quite scared of Wrexham and Birmingham. I genuinely think you've got the swing, and I can't see. I can see you pushing yourself up there towards the playoffs without it being too much of a problem.
Yeah, I think a lot
of mediocre sides in Championship. I think when teams who have never been up to that level or haven't been there in a while think that it's a massive leap. But believe me, without being disrespectful to a lot of Championship sides, and we've spoken to a lot of those last season, Jez, I think you'd be surprised how well you will do?
Well, I hope you're right. I mean, one of my passions is watching Wales internationally. So I know a lot of Cardiff fans. I know a lot of Swansea fans. And I spoke to a Cardiff fan, maybe a matter of days after we got promoted, and he was like suicidal, obviously, because they just got relegated. And he was not in a good place. But he was like, you know what, Wayne? He said that the Championship is almost 2 leagues. He said the top 6 are usually different gravy. They're usually your Sheffield United, your Burnleys, your Leeds. When you chuck Coventry, Middlesbrough in there, he said they're good sides. He said, and then you've got maybe 4 or 5 teams after that, which you probably put Norwich in, your Bristol Cities. He said, who you can maybe turn over, but they'll usually get the better of you. He said, but there's also 10 teams that I believe Wrexham are better than. He said, I've watched Wrexham 10 or 12 times this season. Now, listen, in my opinion, we're not this all singing, all dancing Man City of League One. It was a grind. It was a hard watch. Wrexham fans will agree with you. It was a real hard watch. I think we had 10 or 11 1-0 wins, which tells you, we don't play 4-3-3 attacking football or we're wingers. We sit in, we pick our moments, and we try to. Certainly what's got us through the last couple of seasons is just individual little bits of quality for the level that we've at. So we bought Paul Mullen, who dug us out the hole so many times. We got Sam Smith last year from Reading, who's really interested to see how he does in the Championship, because he's a really good player. So he like, we played Wickham away, really close game, like was literally down to the neck and wire, and he just puts one in the top corner. So we just had moments of quality that gets us through. My concern with the Championship, I mean, this is all said before we sign who we sign, and I'm sure they've got several players lined up. But and I don't know who they are. They could be world beaters for all I know. But my worry when I look at the squad going into next season, obviously our squad will change. But if we were going into the Championship with the squad that we had last year, 2 things that stand out for me: one, we don't have anywhere near enough pace, and it's a lot quicker in the Championship, regardless of whether you're 22nd or first. It's just quicker. And 2. I look at them 1-0 wins that Parky digs out 2 ways. I look at one, I think if we can pull out 4 or 5 or 6, 7 1-0 wins, then it will hopefully be enough to keep us on the safe side. But the other way I look at that is the 1-0s we were pulling off. We were a little bit fortunate. I don't sometimes think you get that rubber of the green in the Championship just because it's all around better quality. But now, I mean, you've reassured me now, Morgan. I'm a little bit calmer because, like I say, coming into this interview, I was kind of like, oh my God, this is going to be a long season. But I think if you asked every Wrexham supporter in that, well, I don't want to speak for every Wrexham supporter, but if you ask me now, you know what, Wayne, we'll quite happily give you, let's say, 15th place. I'd take it. Absolutely, I'd take it. We just need to establish ourselves. We need to establish ourselves. And I mean, I'm grateful for what you said about us. You think we might possibly flirt with the playoffs. That was the opinion I took about League One, and thankfully we did well. But this is a jump that we haven't been there in 43 years, And although we've got momentum, I think that will see us through to be safe. If I'm confident we'll be safe. But then to get that jump from sort of 15th, 14th, 13th to the top 8, you'll know better than I do because you're Championship supporter, you're a Sport Championship club. That is a big. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I hope we're 5 points clear with 2 games to go, but I just can't see it.
I think you need a bit of luck as well. I think that's again what I mentioned earlier on about the injuries. It done us last year, really simple. And I think if you have a season where you're a Coventry and you saw Frank Lampard come in there, but it looked as if they had a relatively fit squad, and I think that's what carried them through. But I think we've talked at length about obviously on the pitch, and I just want to touch a little bit more off the pitch. So well documented story. And we've talked about it a little bit with Wrexham, Ryan and Rob coming in. First off, when did you get an inkling it was going to happen? And what's the experience been like with that? And having the documentary cameras turn up, etc., to the pub. What's been some highlights and maybe some lowlights if there has been any? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I found out just like everybody else. It was just, I think it was social media, or it might have been our fans forum, which is a site called Red Passion. I remember the first time. I remember the first time I read it, and I burst out laughing. I'll be honest. I kind of just went, it's silly season on Red Passion tonight." And then obviously when the Wrexham Supporters Trust, who fan owned at the time, when they announced it was 2 high-profile fellas, people still didn't really want to believe it. I think people I think if I'm being brutally honest, there was a lot of pessimism. People, because we've been robbed from pillar to post over the years by 7 bad guys. So I think the first initial reaction was kind of like, when we found out it was Rob and Ryan, we were kind of like, well, hold on a second, why? What do we have left? What do we have left that they can take? You know, Ryan and Rob are worth hundreds of millions of pounds. What do they need from little old Wrexham with a stadium that was falling apart, a team that wasn't, you know, I could have got 11 guys in the pub on a Friday night to give Wrexham a game back in them days. So, I think the initial reaction was kind of like, why? You know, then when we had the fans had a Zoom call with them, I think instantly people just got put at ease. You could tell they were genuine. And now years later, obviously, you know, I'm lucky enough to get to know them on a personal level. They're just lovely people. So yeah, it's been an incredible ride. So I found out, literally nearly fell down the stairs in laughter. And then I remember the first Zoom call with them. It was just weird because it was COVID, right? So I just remember sitting in a pub with my laptop by the bar, listening to these guys for about 45 minutes. And then close the laptop and just burst out laughing. I don't know what to laugh, cry, swing off the pool lights, run around the car park naked. I didn't know what to do. I just couldn't believe it. And then once I calmed down, the worry instantly kicks in, because you think, oh, look where we could go, look what we could do. You know, your small child football brain starts thinking, what we could actually maybe get back in the Football League. That was my initial, let's just get in the Football League if they take over. Like a real excited little kid. It's just brilliant. And then obviously when it went through, it was just, I mean, surreal, just absolutely bonkers. And I remember the first time the documentary was mentioned, and I was getting text messages off my mate saying, "Oh, you're probably going to get to meet Ryan and Rob." And I was like, well, if they come into the pub, yeah, sure. And then the documentary reached out and said the pub and the football club, as you well know now, they just go hand in hand. They just one doesn't work without the other. They're just linked, basically. So, yeah, I remember a guy called Milos, who was then producing series 1 and 2. He phoned me and said, "Can you make yourself available in the pub next Thursday? Because Rob wants to meet you." So I shouted up the stairs to my wife, "You need to get your hair done because Ryan Reynolds is coming to town." And then when he turned up at the turf, I was the one that nearly fainted. And I don't really get starstruck, but yeah, just put your ease. It's lovely. Good.
Jez gets starstruck all the time when we meet former Norwich players, don't you, mate?
Sometimes.
Yeah, see, so that's the funny thing. So I mean, people will be like, "Really?" But now, I mean, Ryan comes to the pub that often now. Rob just comes behind the bar and pours his own bloody whiskey. You know, it's. You know, you have one minute you'll have bloody Will Ferrell, and then Channing Tatum's asking for a Guinness. It's just weird. But what you need to remember is they're just normal people. Yeah, I mean, granted they've got a few quid. Granted they've been very successful. What I would say, and I'm not saying this for in case one of these guys sees it or anything like that. I'm not really fussed. But what I would say is they're the most down to earth, and not just Rob, Ryan, Will Ferrell, the funniest guy you'll ever meet. Just come in,
he's so funny.
Yeah, just Channing Tatum was just like, "I'll have a Guinness," just normal people, and I think they appreciate the working class ethos of Wrexham. It's a working class town, and I think maybe I'm only guessing here, but I think maybe they're probably so used to people bending over backwards to blow smoke up their ass that they want a bit of realism. I don't know, but yeah. So we met him for the first time. He sort of said, "Listen, we joked that we wouldn't play Chester again and that we wouldn't be worrying about the National League in the not too distant future." I don't think even in their wildest dreams they would have expected 4 years later to be, on the verge of playing in the Championship for the first time in 43 years.
On the verge of getting thrashed by Norwich City. So
yeah, that wasn't in the script. Listen, I can take getting thrashed by Norwich City. It was getting hammered by Telford United and Woking that was the real hard. With all due respect to Telford and Woking.
I'm sorry, I had to drop that in there. It's a Norwich City podcast.
And so this seems like quite a good time to ask a follow-up question. So with the pub, I guess I'll start that again. With the documentary, have you noticed the pub get busy? And you probably before the documentary, the pub was only busy on match days. I'm guessing. Apologies if it wasn't, but now do you get like the football tourist that turns up and wants to be at the scene of the thing that they've watched on TV? I guess you get a lot of that, do you, nowadays?
Oh, absolutely, Jez. Yeah, I mean the pub. So roughly in finance terms, the pub used to be about 30% of our turnover was match days, 70% was non-match days.
Yeah.
When we first took over, we were like, we're far too reliant on game days here. We need to turn this round. So, two things now. The match. I mean, it's a lot busier on game days. We have a huge fan zone and the pub. We have 2 pubs basically, and they're both full, thankfully. Lots of loyal and local customers keep coming back, and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, I think the turnover now is about 9% is match days. It's a busy pub. I left at 4:00, and I think we must have had, without exaggerating, maybe 40, 50 Americans through the door, and we get that nearly every day.
Wow.
Every single day.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's bonkers. Yeah, I mean, it's 4 years on now, and I still doesn't make sense to me. You know, I sat in my car this afternoon for an hour just to start doing my VAT return so I could hide for an hour and put the sun visor down. And, you know, it's lovely. I try to spend as much time with every single one of them because they've come so far. Majority of them are in the UK visiting friends, or, you know, they've come to do something else in the UK. But lots of them fly in just for the games. Lots of them fly in just to come. We had 10 guys from Malaysia fly in, had 4 pints in the turf and flew home. It was bonkers. Like,
that's amazing.
It's crazy. Yeah. I think, again, I get asked all the time, I bet your life's changed. And for a long time, I was saying, no, my life hasn't changed. I think I was wrong in saying that. I mean, obviously my life's changed because, you know, 7 years ago, there wasn't a pandemic that shut down the world. You know, you weren't mates with Ryan Reynolds and you weren't on the verge of playing championship football. I think what I've been meaning to say to people is I don't think I've changed. I still work 60, 70 hours a week. I'm still there 7 o'clock in the morning. I just think if you get, not that my mum would allow me to, but I think if you were to get maybe too ahead of yourself or maybe forget where you've come from, somebody would soon put you back in place, and I'd expect nothing less. So still the same working class guy I always have been. But if you're asking if life's changed and if the pub's got busy, of course it has. I mean, you got Ryan Reynolds tweeting out, go to the turf and have a beer with Wayne, or go and have a burger. Thanks, Ryan. Like well, we're not busy enough anyway. Cheers for that. But yeah, life has changed. But all I really care about deep down, I genuinely care about the people, and I care about the football team. And the town is absolutely booming. The people have a smile on their face. And like I say, I know I've said it several times, we're on the verge of playing Championship Football Club, and that's all I care about, really.
Yeah.
No, it's brilliant. I think, sorry, but Morgan, after you, carry on.
Just on that, what do you think the whole thing has done to Welsh football? Because I mean, like I've always obviously I don't really like international football, and Jez has never really heard me say this. The English team, the England team, I said the other day to Jez, I was like, what is the problem that the under 21s can win the Euros without their heads going, but the first team can't do anything? And so for me, I started having more of a following towards the Welsh team. I'm allowed to because my granddad was from Merthyr Tydfil. But I always found that the Welsh squad, they tried hard, looked after each other, and have done pretty well since back in 2016. So what do you think this situation will bring to the Welsh national side?
I mean, it's difficult to say. There was an argument recently about if Wrexham were up in the Championship or hopefully one day the Premiership, that it would be very beneficial for Welsh football. And the counter argument by a lot of fans was, why? Unless they develop local lads and whatnot, then it's not going to be. It's very difficult to say, Morgan, what it's going to do overall for the national team. I just think the feel-good factor. I mean, first and foremost, what this will allow Wrexham to do is, which they're almost completing, I believe, is to develop an unbelievable multi-million-pound academy where local kids from all around North Wales. Now we've got a catchment area in North Wales of 700,000-800,000 people. It's a big catchment area. So whereas Everton, Man City, Liverpool would just cherry pick these kids from 6-7 years of age, and they would go because Wrexham didn't have much of an academy to speak of. Now we're giving them the hope that if you want to get to the top, you can do it with Wrexham. And if you're the best Welsh young kid in the area, why do you need to choose to go to Stoke City or to go to Everton? I mean, granted, Everton are a huge club, but Wrexham can give you almost what these clubs can give you at an academy. So it's difficult to say. It's difficult to say what it's doing for the current first national team. In fact, it's probably not doing much other than the feel-good factor side of things, maybe. But I'd like to think that and I know the club are really driven on this, I'd like to think that in 10, 12 years, we will have 4 or 5 players running out for the national team in a major championship, and they will have come through the Wrexham Academy, and they'll hopefully still be in the Premier League, or hopefully be in the Premier League or top end of the Championship, wherever it may be, and they will have Wrexham crests upon their chest. And then we will see in a decade or so, what benefit of these owners and this documentary and this whole crazy ride we're on at the moment has done. So at the moment, probably not a lot. but we're very hopeful. I mean, because we've had several players represent Wales for Wrexham when we were a League One team, and there's nothing prouder than watching one of your own pull on your shirt. And
yeah, sure.
and, you know, I mean, hopefully that will happen again. I mean, Robbo on the documentary, who runs Bar 33, he was captain of Wrexham when we got relegated, the nicest man you'll ever meet. And he always says playing for his country was the highlight. And that's how it should be. Maybe that is, and I'm not, you know, I'm only speculating. Maybe that is slightly what the problem is with some of the English boys. Maybe it's the 450 grand a week is maybe not driving them to maybe want to go and do something on the international stage. I don't know, but all I really care about is Wales. And at the moment, it's looking promising under Craig. You know, he's the perfect fit because he's a passionate Welshman. He's a little bit nuts. He's a little bit eccentric, but the team are playing a little bit like him, and he's turned them round. In 10 games, we've lost one, which we were very lucky to lose it against a very good Belgium side. Yeah. So, in answer to your question, probably not a lot at the moment. It's a long-winded way to answer it. Probably not a lot at the moment, but I'd like to think 10 years down the line we'll be more than contributing towards the national side.
Definitely. And he started his career with us as well, Bellamy, didn't he?
I was about to say, Jez. He was at Norwich. I mean, like...
Of course he was, with his long hair. I remember now,
Yeah, I mean, just to quickly comment on Norwich's facilities, because, I mean, it'd be remiss of me not to, but we've got, you know, some of the best facilities in the country. I mean, coming to Norwich as a youth player, you're effectively... I guess it's almost like football rehab, Jez. Like, you're out of the way. You've got these amazing facilities. You can train. I mean, we're yet to go to Colney, but like from what we understand, you know, that's kind of where I'm hoping. Obviously, Wrexham will be sooner than later, because obviously I want to see the Welsh national side do well, because I have that little bit in me, and if you're the focal point for that regeneration of a national side that is going to be out there and do fantastically well on the European worldwide stage, then all power to you.
No, for sure. You know, there's as a proud Welshman, there's nothing more patriotic than watching any sport where your country run out. You know, rugby, football, anything. You know, if you're wearing the dragon upon your chest, as we say, then, you know, we're a very patriotic. I'm not saying England are not. I know they're a patriotic nation. Wales are a very patriotic nation. It's almost a kind of us against the world attitude that we have, because we're 2.8 million people. We're always sort of laughed at by the noisy neighbours in England. You know, we're almost expected to. We're going to get knocked out in the first round. You know, one of the highlights of my life was finishing top in Euro 2016. It was I sat in the stadium when we beat Russia, and I looked at the group on the big screen, and I just said to my wife at the time, "Take that in, because that never happens. That's there could be another 100 years before we top a group like that." And obviously, we went on to do so well. Coleman was different gravy and whatnot. So, I mean, I love watching him. I understand why a lot of people don't like international football, because they want to watch more club football and whatnot. But I love it. I mean, it's a little bit of a respite from my worry watching Wrexham as well, because you don't want to see your country lose. Clearly, you don't want to watch Wales or England in Jez's case. You don't want to see your country lose, but it's almost a case of, if your country lose, you kind of go, right, okay, who've Wrexham got on Saturday? You know, let's start worrying about that again. But yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? You know, I really want Bellamy to do well, because I know he's got his doubters, and I know there's a lot of people out there probably don't like him because he's a little bit opinionated. But I think he's a lovely guy. And if you remember right, when he's at Liverpool and he smacked Juan Anarisa around the head with a golf club, I think it was, he got fined £40,000 by Liverpool, and he donated it to Wrexham at the time. And at the time, it was like a golden ticket, because we didn't know when the next electricity bill was going to be paid. So there's a lot of people in North Wales that wish Craig, the national team, but really want Bellamy to do well.
No, excellent. Wayne, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been an absolute privilege to get to know you, and I wish Wrexham the best of luck next season. I'll actually be in Wrexham in January when we play you. So
well, make sure you reach out. Make sure you stop by and come and have a pint. You'll never know who's going to be in, but you know, make sure you reach out. And
no, 100%. I'll certainly do that. Before we let you go, though, we Morgan does a random question of the week. So I think you'll enjoy this. So I'll hand you over to Morgan for the random question of the week.
I'm glad you're sitting down, Wayne. Anyway. Oh, right. Random question of the week.
Lovely.
So, obviously, you're a pub landlord. Who is your favourite pub landlord and ladies of these choices, and why? Dirty Den from EastEnders, Al Murray, pub landlord, Super Hans and Jeremy from Peep Show, and Bet Lynch from Coronation Street.
Oh, crikey. Dirty Dan, I remember sort of because I'm getting old, but only just remember him. Al Murray, I've been to see, and he's like ridiculously funny. He was actually in Wrexham 2 weeks ago. So I would lean towards him, but I'm not going to. I'm purely going to be boring and go for Bet Lynch, and that's purely on the basis that my late mother was an avid Coronation Street fan. So remember Bet Lynch. You remember silly little things when you're a kid, don't you? Remember getting having your hair checked for school and having your uniform and all the rest of it, and silly little things. I remember my mum being glued to Coronation Street, so I remember looking at Bet Lynch quite regularly. So yeah, purely on the basis that it touches my heart a little bit, I'll go for Bet Lynch.
Yeah,
Nice.
I love that. Me and my mum used to watch. Emmerdale and Coronation Street back to back.
Yeah.
So shout out to that. Jez?
Absolutely.
Brilliant. I'm surprised they didn't say Peggy Mitchell, because she'd be mine.
Yeah, but I already mentioned Dirty Den. You can't do double.
Let's go with Dirty Den. I mean, I'm an avid EastEnders watcher, so I'll have to go for the EastEnders one, I think. But I think another one you didn't mention was John Thompson in Member Haven Badly. Don't know if you remember that. He was funny, really funny.
Yeah, that was a great show.
Oh, superb.
I'll go for Super Hans and Jeremy, because it's the sort of thing that me and you will end up doing, Jez, where you just have like washing machines and the and what did they say about Coldplay?
Yeah, you're not allowed to play it on the jukebox or something like that, wasn't it? I can't remember now.
No, it was,
not Coldplay fans.
You can't trust people, Jez. People buy Coldplay records and voted for the Nazis.
That's true. Yeah, it was going so well until then. Never mind. I think he also said that Norwich turn up. Norwich never win anything, but they still turn up, the bastards, or something like that.
I tell you what, I would say, just changing topics. I wouldn't be incredibly shocked to see Hugh Jackman turn up at one of the games, Wrexham versus Norwich. If I'm honest, I would imagine he'll be there for one of them, being a bit of a closet Norwich fan. I think he is, isn't he? I think he's got
family. He's got family in Norwich. I don't remember which, but he's been to a few restaurants in Norwich. So,
the Deadpool and Wolverine link, isn't it?
Yeah, he's been to Wrexham. He's been to Wrexham a couple of times, and obviously very close, for very, very good mates with Ryan. So I would imagine that they'll make a weekend of it either in Wrexham or Norwich. So watch this space, because they'll definitely make a funny video or some mimic about it. That's what they do. They just like to take the piss out of each other. But yeah, I mean,
that'd be 100%. They've got it's such a good opportunity not to, really, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think that was being heavily discussed when you guys got promoted amongst the Norwich fans. So yeah, that'd be funny. Well, thanks once again.
Thank you.
As we say, I'll definitely pop it. Are you coming to the Norwich? Will you be at the Norwich game at Carrow?
I will be, yes, Jez. If you wouldn't mind just telling me a WhatsApp, I'll store your name and we'll meet up for a pint. I'm going to spend a long weekend in Southampton first and fourmost with my wife and my family. I'm going to have a couple of days down there.
Lovely.
And then I might stay down there if we lose 8-0 and hide, but who knows? Probably the best time to play them. Probably the best time to play them. I mean, I'm probably making a rod for my own back here, but if you want to play one of the teams that are tipped to be right up there, then who knows? I mean, we could go there and lose 6-0. We could catch them cold. You never know. What I would say is there's spirit in this Wrexham team. There's spirit in this manager. And watch this space, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the coaching horses is where me and Morgan tend to frequent before the game. So that's right outside the train station on Fort Road. So that's probably where we'll sounds good. Okay, so for everyone else listening, if you can see the thing at the bottom of the page, but please like and subscribe our channel. You laugh at this every time, Morgan.
Every time, because you sound so vicious when you do this.
never gets any better. So yeah, please like and subscribe on our channel. You can follow us on all the social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, and X, and you can now watch the show on YouTube and listen to us on all the podcast channels. I've been Jez Davies.
I've been Morgan Hewitt.
I've been Wayne Jones. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
And there's always a bit where I'm not ready to press end record.